Hello and welcome everyone to this talk on ImGui. My name is Ronnie Hanna and I am co-hosting this talk with my friend Jack. It's actually his talk, I'm just hijacking it. We are software engineers and we work for Mytona, and we're very happy to be here. Thank you all for coming. So, Mytona is a game developer, international game developer and publisher with offices across several countries. And here are our games. Chef and Friends is a time management game where you renovate restaurants and serve customers. Jack is currently working on this project and he uses ImGui a lot. Outfire is a top-down online shooter game, and it's a game that I'm working on. I used to be part of the UI team, but now I am part of its rendering and optimization team. Seeker's Note is a popular puzzle game where you have to find hidden objects. It's very popular in that genre. And Cooking Diary is an award-winning time management game. It won several awards, including the People's Choice Award at the 15th International Mobile Gaming Awards in San Francisco. Cool. So here's kind of the agenda for this talk. So I'll be giving you an introduction to ImGui for those who are unfamiliar, and basically just go over what it is, why it's useful, and how it might help you in your own projects. And after that, we will hand it over to Jack, and he will show you how to use ImGui to build some cool stuff, and leave you with some of his tips, which you will hopefully find useful. So here we have an example of how we use ImGui. I should probably stay here. Of how we use ImGui in one of our games. So this is our custom-made ImGui editor. It allows us to edit game objects in real time, view some JSON data, and this all helps us to quickly debug and tweak game elements without needing to restart the application every time, saving us a lot of development time. Yeah. And here's another ImGui tool that we've created. This is an asset downloader. It's downloading game assets from Google Drive. So on the right, we see the tool, and on the left is the directory where the files are being downloaded. Yep. So before we talk about ImGui, I thought it would be worth to talk about some UI fundamentals. I think it would be useful to be familiar with them. So in the world of UI development, there are two primary paradigms. Immediate mode and retained mode, and each of these paradigms have a unique way in managing UI. In retained mode, your UI elements are retained by the library, typically stored in some kind of a internal structure like a scene graph. In immediate mode, your UI elements are sort of redefined every frame. So this is an example code of retained mode. So in this example, we are creating two buttons, button 1 and button 2, and we configure their click events. So whenever a button is clicked, just do something. The main takeaway here is that, so this is retained mode, and in retained mode, your UI elements are retained between frames. So you don't have to recreate them again. You create them once, configure their callbacks, and just let the GUI framework handle the rest. In contrast, this is an example code of ImGui. So in immediate mode, your UI elements are sort of redefined every frame. So in this example, it is the same in nature as the previous code. We are creating two buttons. Every time we are calling the ImGui : button function, which returns true if the button is clicked, and that's why it's wrapped inside of an if statement. The idea here is that this code is executed once per frame. So this code would typically exist in your application's main loop or your game loop. Yep. So here we have some pros and cons. So let's go over these. So retained mode is good for static content, and this means content that doesn't change very often. And it's good for complex UIs since it handles state management for you. But it does have higher memory overhead since it stores UI elements in memory over time. Whereas immediate mode, and specifically here we're talking about Dear ImGui, it is efficient. So a common misunderstanding is to mistake immediate mode GUI with immediate mode rendering, which usually just means sending a bunch of inefficient draw calls to the GPU. This is not what ImGui does. ImGui outputs optimized vertex buffers and a small list of draw call batches, which are then passed on to your rendering backend, like Vulkan or OpenGL or whatever it is that you're using to draw on the screen, to do the rendering. So it's actually quite optimized. It's good for fast prototyping, given its simplicity, and it's very dynamic. By that, it means it's good for displaying dynamic content that keeps changing. It does, however, require more manual control. Okay, so what is ImGui anyway? So ImGui is a C++ GUI library, primarily used for creating tools and debug interfaces. It is lightweight, easy to integrate, and highly popular in game development and real-time applications. It is also efficient, as mentioned earlier. The rendering is actually quite optimized. It's not to be confused by immediate mode rendering. And the library does also retain some UI state internally. So the term immediate mode in ImGui describes more how the API looks to you, not necessarily how the API sort of works under the hood. And there's a very good article written about ImGui's paradigm by the creator of ImGui, which I included a link to it near the very end of the slides, in case you're interested to learn more about the library. Yeah. So hopefully, for those who were unfamiliar, now you know a little bit about ImGui, and hopefully you know a little bit about the different paradigms. So for the rest of this presentation, we're going to hand it over to Jack, and he's going to show us how to actually use ImGui to build some cool stuff. So thank you, and take it away, Jack.
Thank you, Ronnie, for his introduction. You did great. Hopefully, I will do great too. Yeah. Thank you all for coming. I'm Jack. I hope you had a good day in NZGDC. Hope you had a great lunch if you already had. If you haven't, hope you will have a great lunch. So first, before we start building some application, we're gonna walk you through some of the basic of the Dear ImGui. Yep. First thing we should look at is the ID and ID stack. ID is what ImGui system uses to kind of identify items or widgets. It's a hash value defined by the system. And you can see on the right side, it's two tree nodes in layer 1 and layer 2. They both have a set of buttons with the same ID. And the reason ImGui system can kind of identify them, to kind of identify them even though they have the same button label, is by using the ID stack. ID stack is basically, you can think of it as a box. It contains multiple widgets inside it. And in the different boxes, they can have the same kind of label inside it, but system will distinguish them by separating them into boxes. Next page. And there are 4 ways you can assign IDs. First one, we can use simply the button label. So first way, the pink label text is the ID. Yeah. Second way, we can use a push ID, pop ID pair. It basically creates a new layer, so whatever you put inside it will not have conflict with other layers. Third way, we can use hashes, 2 hashes. You can see here. It takes a string behind the hashes, and your ID will become the label plus the ID you assign behind it. Fourth way, we have a triple hashes. So basically, it will ignore your button label. So your ID will only be the thing behind the hashes. And that's how it looks like in the actual code. So here we have a window with a begin function. There's 4 buttons here you can see in the window. They all have the same label. But because we use a different technique to kind of assign a different IDs, they can all be uniquely identified by the system. So first way, label, 2 hashes, using the, 3 hashes, and a push ID, pop ID pair to wrap the button around. Yeah, so we can see the hashes including the second layer. Yeah. And some problems that you might encounter if you did the ID assignment wrong. First one, duplicate the ID. Here we can see 2 lines of code here. Input 1, they both have input 1, but they're trying to assign different values, value 1 and value 2. Due to the conflict with the ID, like they both have input 1, they will have some weird behaviors. Like you edit one input text, it will change kind of like the other one, which is not what we want. To fix this, you can use 2 hashes, or you can wrap one of the widgets with the push pop ID pair. And here's another kind of question, problem you might encounter, is where your window has a dynamically changing label. For example, you might want to display kind of like FPS for your application to see like if it is stable. And here, the problem here is that the system will try to read kind of a settings file locally. So here, the ImGui.ini, it's saving the sizes, the position, etc. in the file. And they are identified by the ID. So 1 hashes window 1, 0 hashes window 1. So it's an ID for this window. It doesn't work. It's kind of different sizes. So to fix this, you can kind of use the 3 hashes to regulate the ID. So whatever is changed on the window title will always be having the same ID. Yep. And ImGui.ini is a local file that I talked about. Saves the layout and states for your window. So here we have a bunch of different settings for different window. They're identified by the ID. Whatever is changed is saved and loaded automatically by the system. You don't need to do anything. So yeah. So if you don't want it, you can use this this flag here. I will talk about flag later. So if you assign this flag to a window, whatever output will not be saved or load. Yeah. This is the ImGui flags that I talked about. So here in the example code here and the windows here, I have 2 windows, window 1, window 2. They both have a bunch of flags. They are assigned by using the bitwise operation. Like you can see here, the bitwise OR. Window 1 is this one. No title bar, so it doesn't have a title bar compared to the window 2, which has it. And no resizable, which is a bottom right triangle that you can resize by dragging. Doesn't have it. Yeah, that's how you can kind of achieve the specifying the behaviors and options for your UI widgets. And another concept is the begin and end pair. So it's how you define a container widgets in dear ImGui. You will see a lot of them later in the examples. Basically, you return true if the widget is open, returns false otherwise. And you should always call the end function call if the begin function returns true, which means it's open. There's one exception, begin function and begin child, which is defining a window or a child window. You should always call the end function regardless of the return value. This is due to the backward compatibility. Yeah, I think they're still trying to fix it. Like, yeah, still in progress. So now this is basically the things that you should know before you start making an editor with Dear ImGui. Now I will show you some tools. Building some tools for you to kind of build some useful stuff for your development. Yeah, let's have a look at the video. I built a level editor, kind of. It's a sample. It's 3 items on the left side, and right side is a data editor. I have some data that I can edit, and some texture. I can change sizes, define the path, texture path, some ID, some name, some comments. Yeah. And you can save changes to your local data file, like JSON or whatever file format you want to use. And some pop-up that you can like confirm to save or to not save. Loading some other levels. Yep. Yeah, and I'm gonna show you step by step how to build this. First, we're gonna look at the data. We're using a JSON file here. You might be using other format depending how your game works. We have a level data here. First level, second level, and then other levels. And each of the level have a set of items. Item 1, item 2, etc. Each of the item has a bunch of data. You can assume this is like a item in your game. Like you can have, yeah, I don't know, whatever data you have to save. Here I have available levels, an array, some comments, some name, point, sizes for the texture, and the texture path. Yeah, I'm gonna make an editor that you can edit all this in the game. Sample data in the actual C++ code. Hopefully you all are C++ programmers, so it wouldn't be too hard for you to understand. Structure, name, string, texture path, integer of sizes, point, comments, string, and then available levels, vector of integer, and maximum and minimum for the point. And some of the data structure that we're gonna use. First one, M level data. It stores all the data for our levels. Key is the level ID. The value is another map which stores the item ID and the item data. Second one, currently editing data level is the one we're currently editing. You see in the previous slide with the video. It's on the left column. You can select the texture and the item you want to edit. And then sample data that you want to edit on the right side. Currently editing the data is the data that you're editing on the right column. Now we're gonna start building the actual window. First step, build a window. Just begin and end pair, super easy. Label, if the window is open or not, and the flags. I have a menu bar here, so because I want a menu bar. And a menu bar here, begin menu bar, end menu bar, pair. And begin menu to define a menu item. Menu bottom, I guess, because there's a menu item here. Menu item, like the levels. Another menu with some options, yeah. And we're gonna build some pop-up. We can open a pop-up by calling this function, open pop-up with an ID. You define your pop-up contents with a begin pop-up, end pop-up pair. And you define your stuff inside. And another kind of pop-up is the pop-up model, which is kind of a more complicated, not really complicated, like a more advanced kind of pop-up, which will get focus. If you have to close it to be able to interact with other widgets, you can close it by calling the close current pop-up. Yep, easy peasy. Some text. Here we're defining 4 texts, just for example. Selected level and a %s. Dear ImGui uses a lot of kind of a C style formatting or like string char star to minimize dependency with I guess C++ or to minimize or to maximize the performance efficiency, I guess. So here we're passing the level as a C string we're gonna see why they use C-string, char star, and yeah, to format this. And if you didn't format it, but you have a formatting %s, it will give you like a wrong output, like a bracket here, which is not what we want. We can use text unformatted. That's what you should be using if you're not formatting. Yeah, so it'll give you the exact same text. And then some decoration with a color, define your color and your text. Yep. There are other types of decoration you can use, like bullet text, some other kind of text. I will probably show you later. Next step, we're gonna separate the window into two using columns. So ImGui columns and the number of columns you want. Here I want 2. Define your column content, just a text here. Next column, another text here. And you can resize them, which is pretty handy. Next one, table. This is kind of like a most powerful, I guess, to myself, widgets. It's probably also the most complicated one. So first step, we will have a begin table, end table pair. That's how you tell the system to start drawing a table. You pass in the table ID, number of column, some flags to decorate your table. You specify the table column data. So 3 columns, ID, name, and texture, some flags, and the width of the column. And you call the table headers row. This is to define the row. If you don't want it, you just don't call it. Populating some data. Here you call table next row to tell the system to start drawing next row, for example, the item 1. And yeah, set column index 0, which is telling it to start drawing the first column. We can also use the table next column to start drawing next column, which is my name. And the next column, some other data. Drawing texture. To draw an image in Dear ImGui, for first step, you have to have a texture. You can use whatever graphic library you use, like OpenGL, Vulkan, DirectX, they all works. You cast them into a void pointer. You cast the texture ID to a void pointer. And you define some sizes, 128 by 128. And you can flip your image by defining the top left and bottom right of your texture. And some color, some filtering like green, and then some border color, which is blue on the outside. Yep. Selectables, make it selectable so you can select your target item to edit using selectable. Yeah. And I define the ID using 2 hashes, so it doesn't show anything, just so for you to highlight. And then if it is selected, and some flags, some sizes, make it the size of the texture length, so it will be, the whole thing will be highlighted. And then inside the if statement, I assign the data that I want to edit on the right side, and we're gonna start building some editor. First step, we have input text. It's simply just input text. You pass in your string that you want to edit by reference. So whatever is applied to the ImGui, it will be applied to your string. We have an input multi-line. If it's a bigger input, you can define your sizes here. Yep. Here I'm defining like five lines of size. Passing in 0 here is just to make it so it will be stretched. Some editor for integer floating point. I use input in here, which is this one. Gives you minus and plus button to change size. You can double click on the box to edit. And another one, drag int, which is a draggable area. You can change your size. You can change the speed as well, like 1 and 0 and the maximum. Yep. Tree nodes, another pretty useful container. Tree node, tree pop, it gives you this. You click the row here, it will collapse and open. Yeah, and I draw my image in it. Combo box for the point, the array. So I I have a combo box, and I push a lot of selectable inside it within the for loops, and I change my value if I click it. Yep, super simple. And that's all the widget you need to build this. It's super simple, super useful. Yeah, just imagine you have a set of data you need to edit, just simply make this. Yeah, not much code. This is a super good feature for Dear ImGui. I mean, probably like immediate mode. So yeah, just you can see each line of code and then what it does. Yeah, you don't need to cache any button as a pointer or to store it. You just if statement, easy peasy. Next one, I will build a shape drawer to showcase some of the drawing feature in Dear ImGui. So you probably can build some kind of line graph to analyze your game performance. Yep. You can change color of your stroke, change sizes, not sizes, but shape. And a clear button to clear the canvas. Yep, we're gonna build this. Super easy. Data first as well. Enum, type of shape you wanna draw, line and circle here. Shape data, the type of your stroke, start position, end position, and the color for your stroke. Draw data vector, which stores all the strokes you have. Current shape that you're drawing, current color, a boolean if you're drawing or not, and the start position of your stroke. First step, color picker, simple as just one line. Color picker, 3. 3 here means it's editing RGB. You can have 4, which includes the alpha. And you define ID, you pass in your color. I pass it to a float pointer because it takes array of 3 floating point. Yep. And some flags, no alpha. You won't display alpha. Yep. Just one line, and the whole thing is built by Dear ImGui. Some buttons to define my shapes that I'm drawing. Yep, just buttons. Oh, the same line is very useful, like a decoration layout helper. You can draw 2 buttons in the same line, or like some other stuff. Yeah, and a clear button to clear the vector. Before we start drawing, we're gonna look at some coordinate. Super important if you wanna draw something useful. First step, we're gonna look at the outer monitor, outer rectangle, which is a monitor, 2028 48 by 1080. And Dear ImGui window, the inner rectangle, located at 50 by 50 coordinate in screen space. The position of your window is returned by this function, getWindowPose. And we have 2 texts inside it, which takes up 30 pixels. If you wanna get your drawing cursor position, you call this function. It returns you the drawing cursor in world space, which is relative to your ImGui window. If you want one for screen space, there's another function, getCursor screen position. And to get your mouse cursor position, which we're gonna use for recording the start and end coordinate, we use getMousePose, which returns you the position in screen space. Draw list, it's a list of draw commands that ImGui system will be using to draw editor, like lines, lines, text, whatever you need to draw. It's used to draw shapes, and coordinate are specified in screen space, so you have to be careful. So first step, we're gonna draw the canvas, the gray area here. I use 2 functions here, getCursor screen position, which gives me the current drawing cursor position, which is top left corner here. And the other one is getContent region available, which is the bottom right in world space. So to get the coordinate in screen space, I have to add the first one, the getCursor screen position. So it's this position plus this coordinate plus this coordinate in world space, which gives you this coordinate in screen space. And I use it to draw a rectangle in gray color, which is giving me a gray color. Yep. An invisible button is to enable us to interact with the canvas, to record the clicking, some states and user inputs to record our mouse interaction. First step, we have is item hovered. If you hover on the invisible button here, it gonna return true. And if mouse is clicked, give me a text mouse click. If mouse is released, give me a button text release. Yeah, we're gonna use this to get the start and end position to draw a stroke. Draw lines. Yeah, how we did it is hover, give me the start position, and if it's drawing, give me a line. Line is draw like this, line. You define your start position, the whole thing in screen space. End position, the whole thing here, and the color. Yeah. And the rectangle at the bottom here is just to draw the line that you just released. Save it into the variable called this current shape data. And to store all the shape data, you just store that data into a container. I store it here. Push back to a vector. And to draw a circle, you have to define the center, radius, and then color. Yep, that's it. Simple. Just one line. I mean, you have to get coordinate right to draw it, but super simple. Yeah, that's it. Yay. And some tips that I have from my current, my personal experience. Hopefully they'll be helpful for you. Hopefully, yeah. First tip, the most error that I encountered is missing the end function call. It is very hard to detect. It only gets triggered when you click on the widget because it's a runtime error. And to kind of avoid this, I have 4 suggestions for you. First, commit your work more frequently, once every few hours or once every kind of progress that you have. So it's easier to detect what's wrong. Yeah, so first commit works, second commit doesn't work, you know where to look at. Split function into small functions. This is like a general programming tips, I guess. Always write begin and end together, so you don't forget to call the end function. Use extra bracket to make your code more readable. That's how I would write ImGui code. Begin and end together. Build a window. Use extra bracket even though you don't need it. And use a push pop ID to wrap your items into a layer. So it's to prevent like conflict with your IDs, item ID, and push some items. And that's super helpful. You can collapse your code. Another example why the bracket is useful. So you can easily see where the data is, like first column, second column, third. Yeah, super easy to find your problematic code or to add more feature. And yeah, split function into small functions. This whole thing is actually what inspires me to make the data editor, because this one is actually used in our game. It's a slightly complicated piece of code, but if you split into small functions, you can easily see where your code is. Like, for example here, column 2, define 2 columns, and the first column data, second column data. Yeah, super easy to find what you need to find. Use push pop ID, because when you're populating data into like a container, for example a table, you might encounter a problem where ID is conflicting. For example here, I didn't use a push pop ID. So the problem here is that all the remove button for each row will have the same ID. So interacting with one will kind of give you a wrong behavior. Yeah, so wrap it in the push pop ID and give it a unique string, and you will fix it. Another tip from me is to avoid early exit from your code. Same example from the table. I remove my data when I press remove function, remove button, sorry. And I erase it from my vector or map. And I continue because I don't care about other stuff anymore because I removed it. But the problem here is that I use push ID and pop ID is down here. So you continue, you will skip it and it will give you a runtime error. It's also hard to detect because you only get it when you press a button. Yeah, so I would suggest you to, if you do some data manipulation, do it outside the for loop so you don't forget to call it. I mean, you can fix it by calling pop ID before continue, but you might forget. Yeah. Another error you might see is using string in your program. ImGui, they only support char star, which is a C-style string, to minimize dependency and to optimize performance. So if you want to use std string, you have to include this file, imgui_stdlib.h. Yeah, so they separate the std string functions into that file. And some integration. This part I will kind of like speed through it because I don't have time. First thing, another feature that Dear ImGui has is the docking and multi-viewport. Multi-viewport means you can drag your ImGui window out of your main application window, which is this area, the white title bar window. Super useful. And docking is where you can just dock your ImGui window together. If you want this, you have to check out another branch when you are cloning. So some steps to integrate into your project. First step, clone the project easily. And second step, check out the branch docking if you need the feature I just talked about. Third step, create a folder in your repository. Fourth step, copy some sources and add the relevant technology that you use, like OpenGL, Vulkan, DirectX, they all support it, to the folder that you created. Some extra file if you're using Visual Studio. These two files here, yeah. One is to make it easily to debug the ImGui data structure, like a vector2 that they have, this one. And the filter, yeah, this file here is to help you with stepping into functions, the F11. So it skips the internal ImGui systems functions call because you don't need to care about them. And the std string. For std string user, you include this file. Yeah. Set out some dependency. Yeah. So the code can find where the ImGui code is. In the file that you define your main loop, include these two files. Some code before you start drawing in your main loop, initialization. In the game loop, start a new frame, draw your stuff, render it. If you use the multi-viewport, you have to include this piece of code as well. And then after the loop is done, you have to release the resources from your Griffy library. So just code it and then add the ImGui system. Yep. That's all you need for integration. And to kind of master the whole Dear ImGui tool, you can just read the code. It's super easy to understand. Check out the wiki page if you don't understand anything. They are kind of building it over the time. And this is a tag in the issue page. where they kind of constantly ask people to post their work. So they have some pretty good application made in Dear ImGui. You should check it out. Super beautiful, some of them. And you should make use of ChatGPT or whatever AI that you prefer, because they do a pretty good job. For example, the shape drawer that I did was purely made in ChatGPT. Yeah. And yeah, consider support them. It's a free library. Super good. I like it. Some resources, the GitHub page, some document that they made, and that's we have a demo program that I put all the some work, some example in Dear ImGui. You can check it out if you are interested. And then there's a QR code for the demo. Yeah, if you have phone, you can scan it. You probably have. And if you don't want to take out your phone, you can just memorize my username, watermelon30. Yeah. I don't have much work, so you can easily find the project. Yeah, good. Okay. 3, 2, 1, good. Yeah, thank you. Thank you, everyone. Anyone have questions? Because I got 3 minutes left.
Questions, anyone?
No questions? This is the same QR code from the previous slide, so if you didn't have time, you can just scan it.
For the IDs that you showed earlier, and the different ways you could push them onto the stack, in what scenario would you use the 2-hash method over the 3-hash method?
You mean when would you use 2 different types?
There was a method where you used 2 hashtags before pushing an ID onto the stack, and then there was a method where you used 3 hashes?
3 hashes is not really used that much, because you don't really care about the ID, the different ID. But if it is stored in the imgui.ini, the ID will be kind of fixed for the windows. So you will use 3 hashes to kind of fix your ID for each window. Yeah. But usually during our development, we don't really use 3 hashes that much. Yeah. 2 hashes is usually enough. Good.
Good. Thank you very
More
much.
questions? Thank you.